So if you have any questions, just, either you can contact me directly or put it maybe in the chat. Still can't do it.
Okay, so you know what, Daniela, just tell me when to advance. That way.
Now, please.
Okay. Hold on. Well, there we go.
Oh, there you go. So this is just basically what I just told you. Can you please advance? Thanks. I feel like in the olden times when you had slides and told somebody please next. So yeah, so this is our mission, and you can read this as well as I do, that we enrich the lives of adults with brain injuries by fostering independence through individualized day and residential services. And I bolded adults because we often get the question if we serve children too, and we don't. So you have to be 18 and up to receive services from us. And individualized because the purpose really is to tailor all the services we have to the individual. It's not that one blanket fits all. It's not working like that. Can you please advance? Just a quick about the history. If you've been long enough in Charlottesville, you might be familiar with Innisfree, which is a self-sustaining community for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They're out, I think, by Crozet. And the co-founder, Heinz Kramp, he found that people with brain injuries have often very different needs because they had a life that was different compared to a person who's born with an intellectual and developmental disability who don't know a different life. So he took the people with brain injuries into Charlottesville and founded Building a Bridge, which then later was Building Bridges. And there was at the same time an organization, also a nonprofit, Virginia NeuroCare. Some of them might remember downtown, there was a bookstore and behind it was the organization. And after they left a joint venture with a for-profit organization, our boards thought it would be really good to merge. So because we really had served the same clientele and we complemented each other, and there was a lot of synergy, so it made really sense. So that was in 2015. The next, please. And just briefly, the Bridgeline. Unless you love spiders, you probably not know what this Bridgeline is. It is the first thread that the spider makes, from which then the whole web is formed or created. And it's the support for everything else that comes after that. And that's how we consider ourselves steadfast, strong support for people with brain injuries in all areas of their life, whatever that may be. It can be health, it can be social life, family, work. And if we don't do this, we know who can help. So next, please. I can't see you all, but just remember, think about if you know anyone with a brain injury. So I just want to keep that in mind for a little bit. The next, please. So what is a brain injury, or what is a cause for a brain injury? And most of us think of a brain injury, a traumatic brain injury. We know the soldiers coming back from Iraq. We know NFL football players, young men typically have traffic accidents. People fall, usually older people or toddlers. These are the two groups you see it falls. So that's what most people think, oh yeah, trauma. A traumatic brain injury means always there is a force that comes from the outside on the head, hence the brain.
I might add, Gabby Gifford was on the Today Show this morning, right before we convened.
Yes.
She's a perfect example, right?
Exactly. Very good. Yes. Which would be then the assault, I guess, from the 11% there. Yeah, thanks. I don't have TV, so I didn't realize that. Sorry. But thanks for mentioning it. So the next, please. Then a brain injury can also be caused by a stroke. I don't know how well you can see this, but there are two different kinds of reasons for a stroke, and that can be that either there's a blood clot or an embolus in a blood vessel, and a part of the brain does not get enough blood, and function can be of the brain, that area can be traumatized or damaged, or a blood vessel bursts and blood will kind of trickle into the brain tissue and can that way damage some function of that localized of the brain. And the next, please. Brain tumors. So brain tumors, you can see, I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is a MRI, is a horizontal section of a brain. You see the left and the right brain hemisphere, and that light area on the left side is a brain tumor. So there are several reasons why that can cause a trauma of the brain. First of all, it can, if it's large enough, it can press on all the tissue of the brain. You can see that it really takes so much space that everything else is kind of smushed away. And then after, and then also surgery and radiation, because of this brain tumor, can also cause a damage. So it's not always the tumor itself, it's the treatment can also cause a brain injury. And next, please. I wouldn't have necessarily recognized this, but I think it looks good. It's a virus. So an inflammation of the brain, encephalitis, can cause a brain injury as well. Typically, mostly this is a mosquito or tick, has a tick origin. We're all familiar with that somehow. So that can cause a brain injury, inflammation of the brain, and then a traumatized brain areas of the brain. The next, please. And lastly, poisoning. So we don't always think of this, but it's not exactly on the very common, but it can be can be drugs like opioids, cocaine, can be heavy metals, and also carbon monoxide. So all these can damage the brain tissue. There are different pathways how this happens, but they all can cause a damage and trauma of the brain. So the next, please. So with all this, I'm just for you, I just think about now how many people know somebody with a brain injury, because typically after, oh yeah, I know somebody with a stroke, we don't think about brain injury necessarily about a stroke. The next, please. So, and the question is, who can experience a brain injury? And it really, and this is to me the most important, oh, not the most, but one of the important slides, that a brain injury really can happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere. There is no, like it says, brain injuries do not discriminate. And if you saw all these reasons or causes for brain injury, it's easy to imagine that you step outside, you slip, and you hurt your head, for instance. So, so next, please. I like this picture, this drawing. This is from in my former life. My old boss gave me that. It's in a funny way. It shows various functions of the brain. We always think of brain injury, well, somebody probably maybe is paralyzed, maybe somebody can't speak really, memory or so. But then there are all these other functions that can be affected depending on what area of the brain is traumatized. And sometimes the functions can come back, mostly not fully. So, I mean, you think about making good decisions in the frontal part of the brain. That's really some part that's very important to remember. Making good decisions and analyzing things, thinking logically, imagining things, being able to express feelings or have any very different feelings. All this is part of the brain or functions of the brain. The next, please. Yeah, and so if you know somebody with a brain injury, you know one brain injury, while there are common symptoms like fatigue, headaches, memory problems, often math problems. Math is one of the areas that very often is affected. Everybody has a different, expresses differently their brain injury, because it really depends on what area of the brain is injured, how much is it injured, and that is different for everybody. So the people we serve, we see all kinds of symptoms. So again, if you know one person with a brain injury, you just know one brain injury. Next, please. So just a few numbers. So the first one is there are in the United States 5.3 million people living with a disability because of a traumatic brain injury. These are all this is all trauma numbers. And in Virginia, that would be, I'm sorry. I thought somebody said. In Virginia, these, you can see the next number is Virginia, then comes 8,260 is the Thomas Jefferson Health District. And in Charlottesville alone are 1,557 estimated with brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries. Now, remember so this is only trauma. To get all the numbers together, this is really difficult. And we're still working on this, but you find, well, it's difficult, let's say, let's that. And these are only the people whom we know have a disability. This means they are somewhere registered, they receive services somewhere, they have get Social Security, SSI, SSDI. There used to be a trauma registry, a brain injury registry, but that stopped many years ago. So this number is on the very, very low end of brain injuries. A lot of people don't even go to the doctor or the ER, and yet they do have a brain injury. So next, please. So what do we do? How do we help? And how can we help in all areas of their lives? And again, if we don't do it, we know where they can go and connect them to services who can help. So we have 4 programs. If you want to advance, please. So the residential program, this is you see on the left top side, this is one of our homes. We used to have 4, and for various reasons, we have currently only 2. You wouldn't even know that this is an organization. This is kind of nestled, homes are nestled in the Belmont area. And just because the idea is really to inclusion, you know, and then people are to find a lifestyle for people that is as normal as one can imagine. And so all these photos, they're taking care of their house. We have a live-in staff there. They live like a family, so that there is a trust that can be built, that often can be built when you see somebody maybe once a week or so. And they do everything you would do with your family, from cleaning the house to getting the Christmas tree. Parties are important, going for outings to museums. Also we have music and art therapy, cognitive skill training, all in the homes. So next, please. The independent living program is and then if either you never needed to live in that much care, or you have advanced so much that I can have my own apartment. I won't forget to turn off the stove. I won't forget to turn off, I don't know, the water. You can live alone close by where we are located with the homes, and then people can choose, I still need help with medication because I forget the pills. So we have to come up with a way to how can we help with that. They can come to outings, they can come to meals or so. So people can have a menu basically that they can choose from, what they need, what they want. And if it's not on the list, we'll find a way to help with that as well. So, and they can also participate in music and art therapy still. Next, please. The Bridgeline Place is a day, it's not a day program, but it's a pre-vocational program. And with the idea that people learn skills that they've forgotten, that is just daily skills, living skills, and also skills that they will be able then to use in order to have ideally first a volunteer job and then a paid job. So it's all kind of geared toward earning money. We all know having a job and earning some money is really important for self-value, self-esteem, and coming back to a life that they knew. If they were, adults when they had the brain injury, obviously. So we have a kitchen unit, a maintenance unit. We have an administrative unit where people relearn, using a computer. They're doing statistics. They're doing their own newsletters and so on. So anything, and also, I should say, often a brain injury can cause people losing some of their filters that you need for social appropriate behaviors. So that in this group, it's same in our residential program, that you have a group of peers and support staff that also kind of help you to direct that some things you shouldn't say, some things you shouldn't do. What you just said offended John, whoever, so that you relearn these kind of social skills. And that's really important. If you have a job, there are certain behaviors there that are just inappropriate. And this year, and I forgot to say, also this group and the residential program creates a group of friends that is so important for their life to be kind of have a normal life, because people with brain injuries and the ones we serve have mostly moderate to certainly severe brain injuries. They typically lose all their social contacts, their friends, and sadly often their family. They move on in their lives. They don't understand the person anymore. They cannot maybe communicate. The needs are very different. A family becomes all of a sudden the mom who is 60 or 70 years old becomes all of a sudden the caregiver of their son or daughter. So these are all different, very difficult situations. And this group, not that everybody loves each other, but they know it's a very safe place of friends where I can be me, and there are people who will catch me if I fall. So next, please. And then case management, that we have that only for the past three and a half years. The case manager will either work with a client, here in our office. they go to their homes or they go to places where the services are needed. So the case manager helps with in any area that's important. This can be as much as doing the budget. You know, people might have enough money, but they forget to pay, or they overbuy stuff to get that budget in place so people are not evicted, for instance. They help with Social Security administration. And if you've ever had to deal with this, you know how difficult this is. Fill out any application, connect them to doctors, to PTs, to cleaning services, whatever it is. And sometimes it's just finding a home, you know. We had somebody who was it's not rare, who was in their 20s, who was in a nursing home. It was just not right, you know. This is, or they're with Salvation Army because they just don't have a home. So we can help with all of these things. And this service is really in Central Virginia and Charlottesville and 10 surrounding counties available. So next, please. So, you know, why? So this is me, the little one. And that's obviously my mom. And this is a photo, must have been mid-60s. I grew up in West Berlin. If you know the history, a little bit about Germany, how it was divided in West and East. And then Berlin was located or is located in the former East. And Berlin again was divided in 4 zones, the Russian zone, and then a 3 English, American, and French zone, which was West Berlin. These 3 were West Berlin. So I lived on an island, a West Island in an East part of Germany. And I was surrounded by the wall, by that fence you see there. And I grew up knowing, well, I know this will never change. This will always be an island. This will, nobody would ever see that this situation will ever change. And it was normal. I mean, nobody would question it really, other than people who didn't live in West Berlin. So it was kind of odd to them that we had to go through, I don't know, various barriers to get to the West. And then, as you know, in '89, that wall came down. Nobody could ever have imagined that, not even a few days before that. That's how unbelievable that was. And so, and I have that, and I a little bit compare this, because when you have a brain injury, often in the hospital or if the doctors say, well, you know what, that's what you are now. You're a vegetable. I'm sorry, your son, your daughter, your brother or husband, that's what it is. They will never be able to do anything. I'm sorry, you know, you can never move forward. And I've heard this all the time. And in all these 14 years that I'm working at the Bridgeline, I've seen progress with everybody, no matter how severe the brain injury was. I mean, yeah, sometimes it took maybe 5 years for a person to remember that I got to get dressed before I get out of my room and go to have breakfast. It took 5 years. Or it took 5 years from not being able to walk and talk to have an apartment and a job and a driver's license. So that's very depends really on the person. So the next, please. So the takeaways is really, if you remember anything from today, remember this: there's always hope and there's always progress, and we can help. So thank you. Appreciate the time. And thank you, Andrea, for making this possible.
Thank you so much. That was incredible. Does anyone have any questions for Daniela?
I have a quick question. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. You mentioned that there is a day program that you have. Where is it located?
Well, it's in the X building.
Oh,
And currently it's well, and right now it's on Zoom.
Okay.
So what we do is they have daily meetings where they do everything from learning certain things, from doing yoga, so they do try to do everything they usually do in our place there at the day program. And then they help people with getting PPEs and all that stuff. So it's a little bit different now, but whenever this will be whatever normal, we'll go back there. They're working on opening this again, but then you have these whatever sneeze guards, and you have, people who have to be willing to wear masks, and that's a little bit of a challenge at the moment.
Thanks.
Does that help?
Yeah, I didn't know where it was.
I have a question. Hi.
Yeah,
Daniela.
I can see you, but I hear your voice.
Okay. Daniela, I want to say that this is Robin
Yeah,
Hoffman.
I
Yeah.
remember. I know. I hear the voice.
Okay. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all the work you do. You're
Oh.
amazing. I've actually attended one of your dinners at the residence.
Mhm.
And I just, as a person who works in rehab for many years, the idea that you can consolidate all the needs
Mhm.
is remarkable. But also, what I want to ask you, this COVID thing is driving everybody into the internet. Uh, do you find, I mean, as a practitioner, do you see the results, I guess, of how your residents do adapt? Do you think that they are not? So, for instance, I have a problem with, because I'm a visual learner, I have a problem with separating my brain, I guess, cognition on Zoom
Mhm.
into real life. And I just can't imagine if you're already challenged to some degree where, your cognitive. Anyway, do you see any changes with that? That's what I'm saying. In terms of like how your residents are figuring out how they're going to work, how they're going to, live, and the previous things that they did, and how they're transcending right now to the internet, I guess, for depending on how they function and things like that.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you asked. Yeah, so in the homes, it's we have a person who actually has a job and goes out and works with all the precautions, and the people who don't have a job, it's really hard to comprehend that you can't just do what you usually do, especially when you have a lot of energy and you want to do a lot of things. We're lucky that they got somewhat adjusted to limitations. Took a while before masks were okay. When we don't have visitors, we do music therapy and art therapy all through Zoom, and that it's really amazing that works. I mean, I am. And the people for the Bridgeline Place, the day program, I have to say, this is one of the things I'm amazed that, I mean, yes, it took maybe some weeks or so, but that a lot of them learned how to use Zoom, to use the computer, and we have more people joining, because now, as you all know, transportation is a real issue in our counties. So to get some people just can't come because they don't have a car and there's no bus, and John might not go there, or it takes maybe 1.5 hours to come and go. So we have more people joining now because that's available now. So I think it's whatever how you experience the difficulties, they have the same difficulties and they have the same adjustment. This is what I think, what I see.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You mentioned that you're a nonprofit. What are some of the ways that you bring funds to support what you do?
I can also ask Michael if you want to talk about, he is the one who is.
Sure.
now-
Yeah, I can jump in there. Nice job, Daniela. We have a signature fundraising event that we've had for over a decade now in Charlottesville, which is called Comedy Night. And unfortunately, we weren't able to put it together last spring when COVID hit. It kind of shook up our world, but we're hoping to launch it again this year. So those details are developing. But we like to host a comedy night because we believe that laughter is medicine, and it's a really inclusive event that all of our beneficiaries can participate in. And I'm really excited for it this year. I'll definitely, when we get those details put together, share them with you all. But it should be really cool because we'll have all our supporters from all over the country and all over the world actually able to tune in this year. So it should make for an awesome event.
Good. I look forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, and otherwise we have the day program, pre-vocational program, and case management is for a large part paid through DARS, a Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services. We have a grant now, of course, with also the pandemic, we're worried, how does it look? The RFPs are coming out now. How much money does the state have? Can we get the same amount of money? We always hope for more. The money has never been changed in, I think, 7 years or so. Not so, hence we need to raise money to, adjust everything. We have, and then for the other programs, it's mainly the fundraising, what Michael mentioned, and grant writing, donations, and ask letters, and all of that. Yeah.
So you don't take any Medicaid or Medicare funds, or you do? Okay.
No,
Yeah.
no.
And what under what auspices are your homes or houses or programs licensed or regulated?
We don't have to have a license under DBHDS because we have less than 4 people living in the homes, unrelated people. So, and Shansa, most likely how the board we have discussed this 5 times as long as I'm there, licensing, because of exactly that we could, receive other money. Licensing means that if you ever forget to put the date on the butter, when you open the butter, you'll get a fine. Really, it is like that. And so you need another person who does all that, to oversee all this, and we just don't have the money for that. And so I should also say the residents in the homes, they're paying a fee to live there. That is not free.